Joining me here on Flow FM is Rob Moffatt, the co-founder of ButcherCrowd. Rob, thank you for joining us.
Oh, good morning, Dan. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. We appreciate you being here. Now, before we get into some hard-hitting questions, can we just get a little bit of background from you about ButcherCrowd?
Sure. ButcherCrowd is we're a company that's really passionate about connecting people with high-quality, sustainable and ethically raised food. Our mission is to make it easier for people to access food that's been raised in a way that's, kind to the animals, the environment, and also the people who produce it. Our commitment is working with farming families and producers who share our values, and we have a really strict set of criteria that we use for onboarding new partners, and we only work with producers who raise their animals in a humane and sustainable way. Also, it needs to be 100% grass-fed, grass-finished and pasture-raised, so people know what they're actually getting, and it's the best product that they can get when they shop with us. You know, we all know food is to fuel our bodies, but it's also about connecting with the people we care about and also building community around that.
You mentioned the importance of being caring and ethical towards the animals. Can you tell us a little bit more about the livestock farming industry in Australia?
Sure. Well, Aussie farmers are the backbone of our food supply chain. They've had a tough couple of years, but they've shown remarkable resilience despite facing, supply chain issues. We've had global events, pandemic, natural disasters. But, all of these hard-working farmers put in long hours, and actually their working hours are around 57 hours a week average, which is about 13 hours more than the national average, but their hourly rate of pay only works out to be about $25 per hour. And it's almost 30% lower than the national average salary. But here's the thing. Farming practices, they can vary differently in Australia. So we've got it's broken down into two components. You've got large-scale and intensively farmed operations that focus more on maximising profits and production volume, which normally restrict the movements of the animals to confined spaces and quite often indoors. And then on the other hand, you've got extensively farmed operations. Now, these farms prioritise large outdoor areas. It allows the animals to exhibit their natural behaviours, sustainable practices, and also better animal welfare. So I guess if you can support Aussie farmers who prioritise sustainable and ethically farming practices, it's by doing so we can all make better choices for ourselves, the environment, and also help farmers earn a fair buck for the hard work that they've put in as well.
And you said Aussie farmers are the backbone of the food industry and we should be supporting them. How exactly can Aussies support our farmers?
Well, as a start, buying meat from retail outlets who are actually sourcing directly from Australian farming families and producers who pay them fairly for their hard work. But most importantly, we also need to pay attention to how the food was raised and treated. We want to make sure that the meat comes from animals that have lived a happy and healthy lives, that have been able to exhibit their natural tendencies and not cooped up in a factory-like system. So find a trusted meat retailer that aligns with your values. That's the first big ticket item. And then you'll know exactly where your meat comes from, how it was raised, and you'll also feel more comfortable and connected with your food to help you make better choices for yourself, your loved ones, and also the environment as well.
And we hear a lot of talk about free range, free range eggs, free range, all sorts of things. What exactly does free range actually mean for those who might not be 100% clear on the definition?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Dan. Look, product labelled as free range and organic, it is easy to assume that animals have had a great life outside on the grass. But look, the truth of the matter is the quality and extent of outdoor access can vary greatly. I mean, sometimes the access is just not adequate or lifelong. So as long as Aussies, for us, it's important to be aware of actually what free range actually means and ask some tough questions around that. So as an example, like most people probably don't know, but the average harvest life of a free range chicken is only around 35 days. So can they really live outside and have a fulfilled life on pastures? Within 35 days, within 35 days have just barely grown feathers. But the key thing that defines free-range chicken is the key word there is access. So they need access to outside, and the outside area quite often, more often than not, is actually quite a small area. So, as I said, so they don't actually get to spend a lot of time outside. But it's also the slow-growing poultry which you should be looking for. So instead of a 35-day chicken, as an example, look for something that's had a more slower raised process with a good diet. They've had the freedom to move around and exhibit their natural tendencies, which is why choosing pasture-raised chicken is an excellent option. The animals will get to live their best lives outside. They're on the green pastures. They can pick away at the bugs, grass, insects, worms, and they live a happier and healthier life, but also produce a tastier and better quality meat for all of us to enjoy because of the slow-growing process.
Now, in terms of pricing, organic products versus non-organic products, is there a big difference from your company? Is there a big difference in general for consumers?
Look, these days things are becoming more competitive. So the pricing for organic or pasture-raised products, as what ours are, it's not that much difference. It is slight. You do pay slightly more for it, but once again, you're talking like that's just a perfect example there with the poultry. So a normal free-range chicken spends 35 days before harvest, whereas pasture-raised, and some organic farms do have their animals out in the paddocks as well, just like pasture-raised. So you have to ask those questions. But in a scenario like that, you're talking 12 weeks versus 35 days. So the holding costs for the farmer are a lot higher than what they are for an intensively farmed farmer. So there are an increase in costs, but overall, it's becoming quite competitive, and it's actually not that much of a difference.
With the federal budget approaching, do you expect that will have any impact on your pricing?
Absolutely not. Our pricing it has not changed in 2 years. We noticed that a lot of the other meat retail outlets, along with supermarkets, their prices tend to keep going up and up and up. At the end of the day, there has to be some sort of absorption from a business, and we do absorb a fair few of those costs. We have not increased our prices in over 2 years, and we don't envisage having to do so over the due course of the next 12 months either, after the budget has been announced.
In terms of your products, are you selling Australia-wide? And if so, how exactly are you doing that with packing and delivering and keeping your products chilled and ready to go for your consumers?
Yeah, so we've got our office is in far north Queensland, in sunny Cairns, and we've got a warehouse in Sydney. And what we do is we take orders through our website. We're completely 100% online business. We don't have any retail shopfront. And basically, we put everything through our system, and then it's from our warehouse in Sydney. All of our products that we source throughout the country from Australian farmers, and also wild-caught seafood from Australian fishing families as well, gets sent to our warehouse in Sydney. We put it all together there, and from our network of couriers throughout the country, we distribute it to every state and every territory, covering 96% of the Australian population. So we've got very good reach. It's all sent via refrigerated couriers, so it's always maintained inside a cold chain environment. And the only time that it would leave a cold chain environment would be when it's actually delivered to the door of the customer. So to take off from there, our box is also scientifically designed with all recyclable components, but there's insulation package, and there's also gel refrigerant packs in there as well to keep it at the perfect temperature for about 6 hours by the front door, so you don't have to stress and worry about being home for your meat delivery.
It's great to hear that regional Australians do have that option there, and it sounds like you're taking good care of them, which we love to hear. What advice do you have for Australians who do want to buy ethically sourced foods?
the biggest thing is with this one, I'd suggest is to take a more proactive stance in understanding where their food actually comes from. Consumers can start asking their store where they actually purchase at the moment or whoever they're going to some really tough questions in terms of first of all, is the meat Australian? Lots of products are not Australian. So that would be the big ticket item straight away. But then flow on to that is making sure that the proteins are grass-fed, grass-finished, they're actually pasture-raised, and they're free from antibiotics, hormones, and non-GMO ingredients. Consumers also should consider what life the animal has lived and whether they were humanely raised and handled, because all of this is directly proportional to the quality of the meat that we all consume. So by choosing to support ethical and sustainable meat producers and farmers, it's a no-brainer, and consumers have access to high-quality, healthy meat that's both better for themselves, the animals, and also the environment.
Before we go, where can Australians go to find out more?
If people would like to learn more why ButcherCrowd is a trusted source of high-quality meat and wild-caught Australian seafood to thousands of people, head across to our website to learn more at butchercrowd.com.au. And we do deliver Australia-wide to every state and territory with free shipping.
Rob Moffatt, co-founder of ButcherCrowd, thank you very much for your time and thank you for joining us.
No problems, Dan. Thank you for having me.